Hello and welcome to the holiday edition of Arirang News. Happy Children's Day. I'm Sean Lim and thanks for tuning in. Most of the nation is out celebrating the day off in honor of Children's Day, but this year the festive occasion comes with a heavy collective heart over the tragic loss of so many young lives in the Sewol-ho ferry sinking. The president reached out to children on social media this holiday by posting a message on her Facebook page which reads, "To all children on this Children's Day, I hope you are healthy, grow up brilliantly, and on this day be blessed." Though the post didn't mention the Sewol-ho ferry disaster, she did reportedly cancel all of her previously scheduled Children's Day activities to focus on the rescue operation and investigation. Economists expect a hit to consumer spending in the second quarter, largely due to the Sewol-ho ferry disaster and rolling suspensions for domestic mobile carriers. Our Kim Hyun-bin reports on how long this lull may last.
Analysts fear that South Korea's domestic demand will take a major hit in the second quarter as the consumers have reduced their spending amid the Sewol-ho ferry tragedy. According to Statistics Korea Monday, the country's composite leading index marked 101.2 in March, down 0.3 percentage point from the previous month. This is the second consecutive month the index declined after it reached a 4-month high in January at 101.6. But the cyclical component of the composite coincidence index, which measures the current economic situation, remained unchanged from February to stand at 100.7 in March. Experts say the ferry tragedy may have hurt consumer sentiment in the short term, along with the temporary business suspensions of mobile carriers, which negatively impacted smartphone sales. And experts say income growth remained tepid, as domestic demand remains sluggish. However, it seems overall, consumer sentiment has held steady. In a separate report by the Bank of Korea, Korea's consumer sentiment, which deals with overall economic outlook, held at 108 for April, unchanged from the previous month. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
A leading Chinese expert reiterated his stance that it's a given that North Korea will soon conduct a fourth nuclear test and that resuming the six-party talks remains the only viable alternative. Speaking to reporters on the standstill of inter-Korean relations, Yang Shi-wei of the China Institute of International Studies says North Korea has decided it would push through any technical or diplomatic roadblocks to achieve its fourth, fifth, and even sixth nuclear tests. He added that from Pyongyang's perspective, stopping the program now would mean all of its investments would go to waste and that continuing it would be a means to guarantee survival of the regime in the eyes of its own people. Though unproductive for over 10 years, the six-party talks, Yang says, should resume. Over in Ukraine, civil unrest has now extended far beyond the Russian border to the country's southern port city of Odessa. Violence continues as Ukrainian forces press forward with actions to regain control over government buildings seized by pro-Russian militants. Our Hwang Sung-hee tells us more.
Hundreds of pro-unity Ukrainians cheered as they burned the Russian flag late Sunday in a city that had been the site of bloody clashes just 2 days ago. They are claiming victory over pro-Russian militants who had seized control of Ukraine's southern port city of Odessa. 40 people, mostly pro-Moscow activists, died there Friday, trapped in a fire at the building they were occupying. Visiting Odessa on Sunday, Ukrainian Prime Minister Arseny Yatsenyuk blamed Russia for the bloody riots that led to so many deaths.
Destruction of the country and splitting the country, this is the Russian plan. Odessa was holding on for 2 months until the Russians sent here more people to heat up the situation. Odessa is far too valuable for Russia, but it is even more valuable for us because it's our Odessa, our country, and our people.
On the same day, nearly 70 pro-Russian militants arrested during Friday's unrest were released after hundreds of fellow activists stormed into the Odessa police station. The police chief was replaced with Ivan Tatarinchuk, who promised to bring those responsible to justice.
Those who broke the law and committed crimes will be prosecuted.
At Odessa Square, pro-unity Ukrainians are celebrating their victory, hoisting the Ukrainian flag and singing their national anthem. But the possibility of another violent revolution looms as pro-Russian separatists are planning their own referendum on secession in Donetsk next Sunday. Hwang Sang-mi, Arirang News.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has, for the first time, given a specific time frame on the country's push to regain its right to collective self-defense. Speaking to reporters in Lisbon on Saturday, Abe said he expects to receive a report from a panel on the issue sometime next week. Based on the report, the Abe administration will present its policy toward changing the government's interpretation of the Constitution to the ruling coalition in order to lift Japan's self-imposed ban on collective self-defense. Tokyo is expected to adopt a new constitutional interpretation soon after. And speaking of Japan, on Monday, Tokyo residents woke up to the strongest earthquake felt since the Fukushima quake and tsunami over 3 years ago. At 5:18 a.m. local time, the 6.0 magnitude quake struck the seabed near an island south of Tokyo. Though the trembler could be felt beyond the capital region, the most intense shaking reportedly occurred in central Tokyo. At least 17 people are reported to be injured, with no reports of major damage. The March 2011 magnitude 9.0 earthquake and tsunami left over 18,500 people dead or missing and created a disaster zone at the Fukushima nuclear power plant. On this Children's Day, many Korean parents may consider surprising their children with a toy block as a present, or toy blocks, that is. They're known to enhance brain development, but buyer beware, they can also pose a danger. Son Jung-eun explains.
Attractive, colorful self-assembly blocks are flying off the shelves at toy stores. Parents like them because they're known to help promote brain development and strengthen children's muscles. However, the blocks can also be a choking hazard. One mother recently had to take her son to the emergency room after he accidentally swallowed a toy block piece.
When he told me that he had swallowed a block, I was overwhelmed, and I could see he was overwhelmed too.
According to the Korea Consumer Agency, the number of accidents related to toy blocks has been on a steady rise in recent years, from 16 in 2011 to 122 cases last year. Nearly 60% of the cases were with toddlers under the age of 3 who should not be playing with them according to the toy's instructions.
If young children swallow something hard, the object can clog their airway and choke them. It can also damage the esophagus since their throats are very narrow.
Even more concerning is that despite the surge in toy-related injuries, there are still many toys that do not put minimum age recommendations or warnings on their packages.
In terms of age warning signs, we need to enforce regulations on toy companies and require them to label their packaging clearly so that consumers are aware of the potential danger.
It is also important that homes with young children follow the minimum age recommendations and keep small toy parts out of their reach so that playtime can be educational, fun, and most importantly, safe. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
And today also marks the 20th day of search operations for the sunken Sewol-ho ferry. 12 bodies have been recovered so far this Monday, which brings the confirmed death toll to 260, while 42 remain unaccounted for. Divers have completed an initial search of 61 out of 64 compartments on board the ship, where most of the missing passengers were expected to be found. Officials say after completing this initial phase, divers will next search common areas, including lobbies, shops, and bathrooms. If all the bodies are not recovered by May 15th, search operations will then expand to cargo compartments as well as the first and second floors of the ship. And now let's get a check on weather conditions around the world. That's all for this edition of Arirang News Holiday Edition. We'll be back tonight at 10 p.m. with the latest updates. Thanks for watching.